Welcome to our shoulder routine for you. Now this has got a little bit of a blend of a little bit of stretching and then a little bit of movement and a little strength component to it. Whenever we're dealing with our shoulders, the big things that we look for are strengthening the muscles in the back, which your program is going to have a lot of stuff for that, where we're strengthening the back muscles. Back strength creates front stability, and so that's how that works. So the stronger this is, the more stable and sturdy this is. So there's going to be a lot of back strengthening, but then the part we're going to work on more specifically in this video is the movement aspect of it. It's actually very well researched that the more movement that we have, or the more movement that we do with our backs, specifically our shoulder blade. So if you imagine this is my back, my shoulder blade moving around it like this, the more we do that, the healthier our shoulder becomes. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. This first exercise is very specifically designed to get the spine moving with our backs, moving with our shoulders. So this is what we call a standing cat camel. And what I'm going to do is start with my hands in the front, and I'm bringing my elbows back, pushing my chest forward with my spine and my spinal muscles, and pinching my shoulder blades as tightly as I can in my back, and then reaching forward, just like this. So really pushing my chest forward, holding for about a second, and then reaching forward. So this is it. Really squeeze your back muscles together very, very firmly, and then stretch them out. So this is it, and I believe that was 4. And here's gonna be my 5th one. And there's my number 5. Now what we're gonna do is move into this exercise that we call a thoracic rotation. So thoracic is literally this part of my back to that part of my back. That's all that means, right? Thoracic back, and rotation is literally rotating. So I'm going to be trying to rotate that part of my back. So I'm going to start on the floor. I've got my hands on the ground, and my hand is on my temple just right here, and I reach my elbow to the forearm of the hand that's on the ground, and then I rotate up towards the ceiling and get a good stretch out of that. I'm gonna go 5 on each side. I'm really trying to rotate this pretty much as high as I can get on every one. Again, I'm trying to increase my movement out of my back muscles. Here's my 4th one, now my last one, and number 5. All right, and I'm gonna go to my left side. So my left hand on my temple, reach over to my right arm, and then on, up. And all right, and there's my 5. So now we've worked on moving our spine in a way kind of like this, where our shoulder blades will also move forward and backwards with our arms with the cat camel, and now we've actually rotated our torso around. Now we're going to specifically start to stretch some of the muscles that are right around here and in the back of our shoulder. When we do that, we get some blood flow going through our shoulder, which actually helps a lot with some of the healing in it, and it also allows for some extra movement to occur just naturally. But a big thing that's happening is when our big muscle right here gets a little bit looser, right here gets a little bit looser and right here gets a little bit looser, it actually allows for a little bit more space to move freely in the front, right? So we strengthen the back here and then kind of loosen some of the grip in the front, so we get stability, plus we get a little bit of extra movement. So I've got something like this. If you have a rolling pin, great. If you don't have anything, that's fine too. So I'm just going to show you first time with this and then how to do it without it. You're also going to need a flat platform, which can be a chair, a couch, a bed, anything that's going to be, you don't want it really going above your chest level. So this is pretty good height, but if it was up here, that's fine too. And even if it's up here and this height, that's fine as well. But once you get up to this height, then it kind of becomes a little less or more challenging to get in that position. So I've got this stick, my elbows go onto my platform, get my hips back just a little bit, and now what I do is I actually start to, see what I'm doing? I'm pushing my butt back, and then letting everything sink in between my arms. So I'm really stretching out my back, really stretching out the back of my shoulders. And then I hold this for about 15 seconds. Now, so when you're doing this without something like this, what you do is you just hold your palms up and then keep your thumbs rotated out. Don't let yourself drift in this way. So just keep your thumbs out with your palms facing the sky, and then come back. So right now I've got a desire to do this. I'm gonna stay in this position. And when you actively do that, you'll notice a little bit extra happening in your shoulders, on the side of my shoulders, and that's actually some of my muscles being used. And there it is. So that was the back and shoulder stretch. We call that our kneeling thoracic stretch. So again, thoracic just being that middle and upper part of our backs. Next exercise got going on is what we call a wall slide. So if you don't mind coming with me over to a wall. This one, it requires a little bit of extra focus on what's happening with our core. Core is important whenever we deal with anything related to our shoulders, because our core is actually going to dictate a lot of the positioning of my torso. And so if my torso is facing up this way and I'm trying to do movement, it's going to be different than if my torso is facing this way trying to do movement. It just affects my shoulder differently depending, and this is very specifically, on where my rib cage is facing. So the stronger my core and the better able I am to keep it in a specific position, the better suited I am to be able to do any kind of movement with my shoulders without pain. So this is, and there's a little trick I have. I'm going to put my thumbs on my lowest rib, my pinkies on my hips, and I'm going to close that distance, right? So that's what I've done. Thumbs on my lowest rib, pinkies on my hips, close the gap right there. That's it. I'm going to hold this. I'm going to walk up to the wall, and I'm going to place my forearms against the wall. This hasn't changed. This stays the same the entire time. And the battle is keeping this in this position as I elevate my arms up. So that's about as high as I can get right now, and then come back on down. And this is not about how high you can get. This is about what you can get to while maintaining your position. All right, so we're not worried about getting super high up, although I am trying to get a little bit higher each time. I'm going to get to 5 of these. I think that's 4. And my last one here is 5. And there's number 5. All right, so that's called a wall slide. What we're doing there is when our elbows come up, we actually have to use some back muscles to actually guide ourselves. So as we stretch out a little bit of the front of our shoulder with this movement, we're also strengthening our back muscles simultaneously to pull my arm up. So that's what's happening with that. Kind of what we talked about before is the importance of strong back creating a healthy shoulder, right? So the more stable you are in your back, the more stable you are. Next exercise is what we call a side lying external rotation. I have 5 pounds here, and this is very specifically a strength exercise. This is one where I was talking about where we got a little bit of a strength, but this time it's not necessarily in our back, it's deep within our shoulder. So the muscles being used are about the size of my thumb, so they're not very big, right? So about the size of my thumb, so you don't need a heavy weight. In fact, oftentimes you can actually just use body weight and then hold yourself in the position. I'm going to use a weight for this. So I'm going to pull myself into this position. I've got the side of my body on the ground. My hand is on my head. That way I don't have to hold myself up this way and use a bunch of neck muscles, so I can keep myself comfortable. The next is right where my hip bone is, right above is where my elbow is being placed. All right, so that's my position. Now what I'm going to do is take my knuckles, right, and bring my knuckles to the ceiling, and this is it. Now what I'm not trying to do is something like this. I'm trying to keep it so that everything's lined up. And about that height is perfect. And then I guide it, right? I want to control the weight here because all I'm doing is rotating the upper part of my arm to control this weight so that those small shoulder muscles get a lot stronger. All right, now I'm going to switch sides. I believe that was 8, and this is one where I'm actually going to show without any weight on this side. So you can see that you don't necessarily need weight for this. You can do this without, so if you're at home, you're trying to do this without any weight right here, and this is the position, and I'm actually really trying to push my knuckles up and then back on, down. That's it. So I come up to about here, and I'm really pushing my knuckles back. Good, and I'm trying to control it the entire time. And this is about 3 seconds in this position, and then I guide it back. And here's the last one, number 5, and 1, 2, 3, and guide it back. And so these are, where's the camera? There. So those are the exercises that you do if we're trying to, again, in your program, there's going to be a lot of strengthening for the back to help with the control. But then also with these stretches and movement exercises, also increase some circulation, and it's a way to help prioritize movement in our backs that is very healthy for our shoulder.